A few years in a row I've had to overwinter some pots outside, and I didn't want to bury them in the ground. These are plants that are hardy if they're planted in the ground, but they're not planted. I still have them in containers. A couple of times it's been some plants that I'm storing for someone else. A couple of times it's been plants that I've purchased but haven't had a chance to plant yet, and then the ground gets frozen. And a couple of times it's been these 3 large blueberry pots that are very large, have several plants in each pot, and I'm moving them around in the summertime so they can get a lot of sunlight, because I don't have a lot of sunlight in most of my yard, and then I don't want to plant them, and they're really big pots. So what do I do with them? I've been storing them for several years during the winter in this little area right here. What I do is I put a couple boards in the bottom, put the pots on there. If I'm overwintering something like a fig, I'll lay that down in there because the top isn't hardy. I'll completely bury that in here. I put small pots in around these large pots, and then I've used some old siding boards wedged between some temporary poles or stakes, and wedged between those and the leaf mulch that I put in here. I shred my leaves from my yard, and I kind of pour it in and let it filter in, and it stays loose and fluffy as kind of an insulation. There isn't any heat source in here to keep these plants warm that the insulation would be protecting against, but it does just slow the coldness going through here, so that when the temperatures get real cold outside, it takes a long time for that cold to work its way into the roots of these plants. There's next to the garage here, next to the fence here, under a little bit of an overhang, so they're in a pretty protected spot. This is also the south side, sun faces into here, so this area is the most protected spot I've got. And these blueberry plants have survived several years now in these containers, and they're growing very well, producing a lot of blueberries. The other plants I've put in here, I've put in prickly pear cactus and roses and apple trees, the scions of small, the rootstocks rather, of small plants that I'm going to graft onto in the future. So I've put a lot of things in here, and all of it has survived just fine. So if you have a need to protect some plants that you didn't get planted, and you're going to be saving them for next spring, I highly recommend giving it a try of putting them in a protected area and then surrounding the pots with mulch of some sort and making sure they're watered in, and then waiting until spring and see what happens. So far it's been a success for me. And this is Jeff for The Greener View. Thanks for watching.